Hi and welcome to Terry Talks Movies. I'm using a different mic and a different camera this time, so bear with me. Hopefully this is all going to work. This time around, instead of doing the usual double feature I do on the Monday video, because of circumstances around here, I've had to change the plans. And so what I'm doing is a little bit of a haul and a little bit of a 2023 in review. It's been a really interesting and strange year, both for the channel and for movies and cinema and television in general. So I thought I'd do a little bit of an overview and kind of underline all the changes and the interesting things that have been happening in the last 12 months in the realm of human endeavor we all know and love. The reason why things have got a bit wonky this week, I'll talk about that a little bit further into the video. I don't want to dump a downer on you at the start, but it is interesting and it is relevant to the channel. 2023, really weird year. We're just coming out of the pandemic. Yes, things are still going on with people getting it, and I don't want any anti-vaxxer rubbish on the comments, please. Zero tolerance of that. We're coming out of that period of human history where that occurred, and we don't need people trying to rewrite that history when we all know exactly what happened. The big things that have happened have been unprecedented and unpredictable. First off, there was the writers and actors strike in America, which had a profound effect on media and movies in general, and showed us, even though most of us were very unaware of it, in Hollywood there is very much a commercial feudalism system where the people who do the actual work are under the misguided guidance of some very stupid people, particularly Bob Iger, who runs Disney, and a bunch of the other people in suits who see movies as a business rather than a cultural phenomenon and a way of describing and underlining and blocking down the history of our species in some ways. The use of AI to emulate people, the scanning of people and giving them minimal money, and then using their likeness for AI, the rise of large language models to write and to describe things. I've used large language models on the channel, more in a way of kind of finding out what they do than using them in any meaningful way for the channel. But it's been a really odd year or two while we're trying to wrap our head around the strangeness of what we call AI, but which is really a kind of new application of already existing technologies, including large language models and visual representations of things that have been around for a few years but are now just becoming a little bit more realistic. They've kind of got rid of the six-finger problem. Yes, I've used it on a channel a little bit, mostly in backgrounds. But it's a weird phenomenon. It's a phenomenon that is impacting people who are creative and who are passionate about being creative. And the studios saw an opportunity there to make a lot of money without giving it to anybody creative. And so the actors and the writers got their backs up and ultimately prevailed, mostly because of very smart and strategic maneuvering by smaller studios. The big, monstrous, monolithic studios held out longer than anybody else did. But the small ones, A24 and those smaller studios, who have always been nimble and have done incredibly good work on minimal budgets and with limited resources, cut deals before anybody else did. And so they could go back into production, they could get their product out there, they could use the resources of writers who haven't technically been able to work in a meaningful way. And they've also done some interesting things like using Raka Raka, the YouTube channel, and the YouTube creators, the Philippou brothers from Adelaide, to make Talk to Me, one of the greatest horror movies of the year, which came out of a YouTube background. So all of this stuff is changing and cinema's evolving. I don't think it's a bad thing that it is. I think that while technologies and platforms exist, people are going to use them and use them in a creative way. There's a democratization of creativity going on where TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Twitch and a whole bunch of other platforms are giving particularly younger people an opportunity to do new and different creative things and to step out of the shadow of just 9-to-5 drone jobs which don't suit a lot of people. So all of that's been happening, and I find it interesting. I don't have anything against those platforms. I use one myself, of course, but I like the fact that creativity of young people is, if not being encouraged, at least being given a door so that people can explore it to the extent that they want to. But there have been a couple of other cultural phenomena in movies that I've found really interesting this year. There's a whole Barbenheimer thing with two incredibly different movies made incredibly well, came out on the same day, and people decided, yep, I'm going to go and see Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie, I'm going to go see Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, and I'm going to make a thing of it. And I did that to an extent myself, though I watched them consecutive days, and I enjoyed it. I found Barbie very, very different from Oppenheimer, of course, and I watched Barbie first, and I loved them both. I think Oppenheimer has some quirkiness that I probably need to rewatch it again to fully embrace. Christopher Nolan is doing things nobody else is doing, though I do think that his insistence on using minimal computer effects is more a conceit than a useful thing. But we'll see how he goes in future with that. I think increasingly he's going to be using computer effects at some stage in the future, because practical effects aren't always able to do exactly what a creative person wants when they're making a film. And then you got Greta Gerwig's Barbie, which talks about a whole bunch of cultural issues that are very much on the minds, particularly of younger people, being gender roles and the way people are perceived in society based on their gender and the way people are supposed to act. The movie was also very funny. It was very creative. The acting was on point. The ensemble worked really well. It was mad and silly and fun, but it had a heart behind it, and it had character behind it, and it had a voice and an opinion and a viewpoint, which very few large blockbuster franchise-based movies have. But then towards the end of the year, there was something else. There was a pivot to a different kind of filmmaking. Marvel went into a bit of a decline. They produced some movies that they thought they could just iterate previous things and use the vast intellectual property that Marvel has based on the comic books. And so we got things like The Marvels, which I didn't mind. It wasn't a bad medium superhero movie with 3 female leads. I think it worked on that level. I could see a couple of flaws in it, but I didn't find it egregiously bad. I think it should have found an audience better than it did, and that audience would have been overwhelmingly, had it been marketed right, a young female audience, but it didn't get that. I don't think Marvel had any faith in it, and so that limited its market share. Of course, on the streaming services, we had Loki come out season 2, and I enjoyed that. I think it worked well. I think the characters were interesting, the arc and the resolution of it were interesting, so all of that stuff worked for me. WandaVision, I think that came out last year, I didn't mind. Moon Knight I kind of enjoyed as a quirky side note and a cul-de-sac in the Marvel universe, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the new Captain America series does. I'm kind of locked into watching the Marvel stuff. I've got a lot of spare time compared to a lot of people. I don't mind watching that. I think the changes in DC are good as well. Blue Beetle was the last of the old school DCEU movies, and to be honest with you, I didn't mind it. In fact, I'm going to do this a little early. I did get the 4K of Blue Beetle because I liked it, and there's something about this film which leads me towards the change that came late in the year in cinema. And that change is the pivot from spectacle for the sake of spectacle in large budget movies to character-based spectacle. And Blue Beetle did that with the family dynamic of Jaime Reyes' family. It really embraced that, and it strengthened the movie based on that, and I like what it did. I think this one didn't get enough love. I'm glad it got a 4K release. I'm glad they released it in Australia as well, which Disney isn't doing. We're not getting an Indiana Jones release on physical media in Australia. The last one that came out was Guardians of the Galaxy 3. After that, we're going to have to look overseas to find physical media releases of any movie that Disney owns the rights to. But there's a pivot, and the pivot's got a couple of prongs to it. One of which is Godzilla Minus One. Godzilla Minus One, $15 million budget. I've talked about the movie on the channel. Based its whole thing on character much more than spectacle. Godzilla is a force of nature in the lives of these people, but the focus of the movie is the lives of the characters. And that worked for so many people in the audience. People didn't expect to tear up at the emotional impact of a Godzilla movie, and yet they did. I came close to it myself. And it's one of those things that the big companies are going to have to look into. And to do that, they're going to have to give the writers and the directors and the creative people more control. If you have a stranglehold and you gatekeep the movies too much, you're not going to get that emotional character impact. That is the secret sauce in Godzilla Minus One, and in a number of other movies as well, including Blue Beetle. That's a lesson that the big people are going to learn, and that the small ones have already learned. A24 and the Philippou brothers doing Talk to Me. That's based on characters, based on the trauma of the characters, and it tells a bloody good horror story doing that. I expect in the next year or two we're going to start seeing a lot more character-based, spectacular movies, because that stuff sells. And it's not something that can easily be faked. You've got to ground things well to do that. You've got to have an emotional plausibility to those things to do that. And even light things like Wonka, I want to see that as well, because I like the previous movies that the director did, and I like Willy Wonka anyway. I think Timothy Chalamet is better than a lot of people say he is. The ensemble of that, they've got some incredibly good character actors and comedy actors in that movie, based on Paddington 2, the previous movie by the director. I'm going to see it. I'm going to hopefully enjoy it. It's got one of those virtues in movies these days, in that it isn't cynical. It's open-hearted, and I want to see that. And then A24 blasted us in the last week with a trailer for a movie called Civil War, which is about an American civil war in the near future. And it doesn't pull any political punches. A24, being a small studio, doesn't have the corporate gatekeepers that the big boys have. And so they can make a movie like this on a relatively low budget and really nail to the wall a lot of the cultural issues that we're having in society at the moment. That one's going to really split the audience. There's going to be a lot of right-wing nut jobs on various social media platforms decrying it, trying to tear it apart and pull it down. But the virtue there is it wasn't made on a large budget, so even if it doesn't make Boku, Marvel, DC money, it's still going to make a profit and it's still going to find an audience. But those are the things in media that I've really enjoyed this year, and there have been changes, and it's showing that movies aren't going to be the same in the future as they've been in the past. The other thing is the channel, and the channel's done pretty good. I did a bit of number crunching. I'm not really a stats guy, but in January we had 9,300 subscribers on the channel, and now we've got 11,541, which is a pretty big concert hall worth of people extra who are in some way engaging with the channel. And thank you to everybody who does. Thank you to the people who contribute financially to the channel, people who contribute to the chat and the comments, and people who contribute just by watching the videos. It's really appreciated, and it means a lot to me. And I took a look at the other parts of the subscriber stats. In January 2021, the channel had 1,150 subscribers, and now we have 10 times that. In 3 years, I've got 10 times the subscribers I had before, and that's crazy. And in January this year, I had 1,557,000 views, and now we're up to 2,155,000. That's crazy numbers. That's unprecedented in my life and my experience. And thank you to everybody who does that, who contributes to the channel in any way, even just by giving me your attention while I waffle on about movies. That stuff matters, and that stuff is so important to me and to the channel, and I think to the wider discussion. And there are any number of good small YouTube channels talking about movies, things like Cinema Dave and Movie Chatter and a whole bunch of others, just talking their passion and sharing it with other people. It's a wonderful space to work in, and a wonderful space to be creative in. And I'm not going to underestimate how good that makes me feel and how much it means to me. I'll tell you what's gone on this week now. If you want to skip past it, because it is quite ugly in parts, I'm going to put a timestamp up on the screen now so you can skip past it. Friday night, we were just hanging around at home, and we heard a cat scream outside. And we went outside, and little Luna was impaled on one of the sculptures in our garden, a dragon. She was impaled on the dragon. In fact, I've got it here on my desk, if I can just get past the mess and find the bloody thing here. She was impaled on that, and it pierced from one side of her belly to the other, and a part of her belly was trapped around that. And we were in a panic. I was trying to hold her. She was in total agony. She bit me and scratched me, which she doesn't do. And ultimately, Sally got a mallet and knocked off that bit of the dragon's wing. And we put this and her into the cat carrier and rushed her to the veterinary emergency in our area. And they were marvelous. It cost a lot of money, which we really don't have. We got her there. They kept her overnight. They patched her up, and she's now asleep on my desk here with the cone of shame on her head. She's been patched up. She's going to be okay, but it's going to be about 2 weeks before we can take off the cone, before the stitches come out. It didn't pierce any vital organs, but it did tear the skin along her belly in a bad way, and it racked us all up. We were shattered, and we were worried about her. Jill, our other cat, is still pretty traumatized. Luna, we've still got her on serious pain meds and antibiotics to deal with this, and she's just stood up and stretched. She's been crazy. 48 hours after all of this happened, we found her inside the top of our closet. So she, being who she is still trying to live her life, but she hasn't got used to the cone yet. And it's been traumatic for us all. It really was unexpected. We think she leapt from the top of a fence down and mistimed her jump and impaled herself onto the dragon's wing. And that's been pretty rough for us. It's really shattered Sal and I. Cats are family to us, and if people disagree with that, I don't give a stuff. She is a part of our family, and she's an important part of our family. And she's only 2 years and 8 months old, so she's not an old cat. And she's going to be fully okay later, but at the moment we're still going through that and processing what for us has been a trauma. It's been horrible for us all. So that's why I haven't completed the video I had planned for today, so I apologize for that. Moving on from that, I've got a bit of a haul. So I'm going to do a haul and end this on a haul, because I've been out and about before and after. Some of this is my Christmas stuff. Some of this is stuff I've found in op shops and at markets. I've been keeping busy. The weather's lovely at the moment, so I was out today, in fact, doing that and buying myself a nice lunch at the Laverton Market. I went over to the Werribee Farmers Market. We bought a few things there, so distracting from the horrors that happened with Luna in the past few days. It was good to get out and do stuff. I did get Oppenheimer on 4K, and the weird thing is that this is selling really well. People are saying that physical media is dying, but across the world, wherever it's become available, people are buying physical copies of Oppenheimer, usually on 4K, and that gainsays a lot of the rubbish people are talking about physical media dying. It's really one of those movies that people have taken a liking to and they want a copy of. And I think it should be encouraged that they do that with more movies. Not just big ones like Oppenheimer, but other movies as well. Of course, I did get Barbie as well, because if you got one, you got to have the other. And both of those I'm going to rewatch. I've got them both on 4K because they're worth it. What have we got here? Now, of course, I've got Blue Beetle, which I bought. Just because I think I want to encourage this kind of superhero narrative. And so by buying it and putting my money where my gob is, I'm encouraging companies like DC and Warner Brothers to put out superhero movies that have character-based action and characters that we can like and engage with, and that aren't just archetypes and stereotypes. Now, a lot of this stuff's in random order because Luna jumped up on the desk and scattered it just before I was recording, because even though she is injured and in pain and on painkillers, she's a force of nature and you can't stop her. Got this one for $1 at the market today. I didn't have a copy of it. I've got a copy of a few other movies along these lines, but I picked up, actually it cost me less, cost me about 80 cents. I think this is a Taiwanese version of Pillow Talk with Doris Day, Rock Hudson, Tony Randall, Thelma Ritter. One of the great rom-coms of all time. And I realized I didn't have a copy of this, and I saw it there. It's going to be a fairly good copy. It is widescreen. It's got English and Chinese subtitles, but I didn't have a copy of it, and so picked that up. Rom-coms I like. If you want me to do a rom-com video at some stage, let me know. Didn't have a copy of Elysium, so I got that again for 80 cents on Blu-ray. Not the best science fiction movie in the world, but it's got some honest world building to it. This one's a bit of an oddity. It's from 2006. It says movie gift pack. It's a series of trailers on DVD, which were given out to people promoting movies. Now, I didn't have this. Nobody has it, really. And let me just have a look at the movies that it's got in it. They're all of the time. The Pink Panther movie with Steve Martin, Ice Age 2, World's Fastest Indian, Legend of Zorro, Fun with Dick and Jane the remake, Narnia, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, Chicken Little, Rumour Has It, Nanny McPhee, Memoirs of a Geisha, Zathura, and The Da Vinci Code. There's the inside of it. Village Cinemas put that out locally as a promotional thing. I think it may have been for people in cinemas who work in cinemas to take a look at. So that was a bit of an oddity, so I picked that up. And the other one I picked up, which I've already got a copy of, but this thing is going for a premium price. Again, 80 cents. Umbrella Entertainment, number 96, based on the TV series of the same name, which was phenomenal here in Australia. This is number 96, the movie, and a whole bunch of documentaries about a very iconic 1970s Australian TV series, which was a breakthrough series in so many ways as far as LGBTQIA plus representation, adult material and other things. If you grew up in Australia at a certain age, you watched and hopefully enjoyed number 96. Then I've got a bit of a Christmas haul. Sally and I decided we're going to give each other a couple of $100 to buy what we wanted for our Christmases, which is what we normally do. Put the money away, give it to each other, boom. So I went to Powerhouse and picked up the Indicator all-region version of some renowned films. I got Buchanan Rides Alone with Randolph Scott. These are the movies that Bob Bedicker did with Randolph Scott. There are, I think, 6 of them, 7 if you stretch a point, but the 6 of them are fantastic. I've already got the umbrella version of these on DVD, but I thought I'd go the Blu-ray because they had a deal where I think it was 3 for 20 quid on the UK Powerhouse site, and postage wasn't too bad, so I picked that up. I also got Decision at Sundown, which is a really underrated one. Small budget, but geez, it does well. I really like what Decision at Sundown does as far as having a morally ambiguous protagonist who gets into a jam in a town when he goes on a revenge spree and has to make some decisions. Really underrated. Again, these are renowned ones that Bedicker did. Fairly low budget, low locations in the Alabama hills. Really solid stuff. Luna's just jumped down, by the way, if you heard a noise. This one I kind of liked when it came out, but I didn't get a copy of it. Gus Van Sant's adaptation of a Tom Robbins novel, Even Cowgirls Get the Blues, which is more fun than I really expected it to be when I first saw it. Good soundtrack too. Katie Lang and a bunch of other people. Silly and gross in parts, but I think underestimated. So I enjoyed that one when I first saw it. Didn't have a copy of it, so I thought I'd pick it up. This one's a little anthology series that came out, I think it was around the 1990s, where a bunch of fairly prominent actors did little short stories in an anthology series called Perverse Destiny. And it's got Kiefer Sutherland in it, Dan Aiello's there, Gary Sinise, Uma Thurman, all these little strange stories that came out, and that's not focusing. Focus, you bastard. There we go. I picked up a couple of previous ones there, but I didn't have number 3, so I picked up that. This one, and that one, by the way, was another 80-cent job, as indeed was The Conjuring. I didn't have a copy of The Conjuring, which directed by James Wan, an Australian director, and I didn't have a copy of that one. It's in the Annabelle series kind of thing, that extended weird horror universe they have. So I picked up that. Haven't seen it. Good friend of the channel, Damien McGee, said, I've got an extra copy of this. Do you want it? I went, yeah. And so he said this to me. Sorry, I've opened it early for Christmas, Damien. It's a classic film with Trevor Howard, Dora Bryan, Sonny Tufts, and Richard Attenborough. Gift horse. Don't know anything about it apart from the fact it's a naval drama. I'm going to go in this one cold and see if I can enjoy it. Thank you again to Damien, who supported the channel in a number of ways. And I really want to sit down and watch that one at some stage. Next up, this is another one of the Powerhouse ones, the Indicator ones. Bob Fosse movie. I like this one, based on a Fellini movie, Knights of Cabiria, A Sweet Charity, with Shirley MacLaine. It's also got Cheetah Rivera, Paula Kelly, Stubby K, John McMartin, Ricardo Montalban, and Sammy Davis Jr. If you haven't seen this, this is Bob Fosse's first big film in a way, and I like it. I like what it does. And being a musicals buff, musicals don't tend to really rate well, and they don't tend to get a lot of views when I put them on the channel. But I am a bit of a musicals buff, so I may well take a risk at some stage and do like my top 10 favourite musicals for the channel. Again, let me know if you want me to. Then I spent a little bit of my Amazon Associates money. When you click on a link on the channel and buy something that I post in the description, Amazon gives me a little bit of money towards an Amazon gift card, and this wasn't available in Australia, so I got Poker Face Series 1 with the wonderful Natasha Lyonne. Tremendous supporting cast in each of the episodes. Hong Chow, Tim Meadows, Adrian Brody, Judith Light, Chloe Sevigny, Nick Nolte, Sherry Jones, whole bunch of people. Really fun, very much in the style of Columbo, But if you haven't seen Poker Face, I recommend you do. Fantastic stuff. Really loved it. Gonna watch it again. This is the other one of the renowned movies I got from Bud Bedecker and Randolph Scott. I got the indicator version of from Powerhouse. Comanche Station. This one's got a great ending on it as well. Claude Akins is in it. Richard Russ, Nancy Gates, Randolph Scott again. This one is underrated. People talk about 7 Men from Now and The Tall T. But I think Comanche Station packs a punch. Then I've got one of those 5 movie collections that came out probably 15, 20 years ago. And inevitably there's like 1 or 2 movies out of the 5 that I really want to get. And the rest I've either already got or I've got no interest in getting. So I picked this one up for $1. I got this one at an op shop. So was it $1? No, it's $5. I actually spent big on this one. And it's 5 collection action movie pack with Behind Enemy Lines, The Delta Force, the remake of Flight of the Phoenix, Broken Arrow, and Volcano. The ones I really wanted on this were Broken Arrow and The Delta Force, with Chuck Norris underacting and Lee Marvin showing you how to do it. Flight of the Phoenix I didn't particularly care for. I liked the original, but the remake leaves me cold. Volcano I liked, but I've already got. And Broken Arrow I liked because it's John Woo, so why wouldn't you? Still got a few to go. Didn't have a copy of this. I don't know why, but I didn't have a copy of this Brian De Palma film, Carlito's Way, with Al Pacino, which I paid $4 for at an op shop. Al Pacino, Sean Penn. Good crime film. Underrated. And I wanted to rewatch it. I saw it there and thought, this one's going to get a home. And he came home with me. He followed me home. This one's a DVD double feature. It said it was originally $8.94 at Big W. 94 is an odd thing given the fact we only have 5-cent pieces here in Australia. But it's a couple of science fiction movies, one of which has Mark Hamill in it, Slipstream, and In the Year 2889, which I don't know anything about this one, but I remember seeing that one and not caring for it that much. I paid $2 for it, but I'm going to watch that. Maybe I'll put it into one of those science fiction Saturdays and see how we go. But again, cheap. This one's an Australian film with an American star because we did that a lot because we're stupid. Directed by Felipe Mora, Mad Dog Morgan, with Dennis Hopper. I did have a really early DVD pressing of this, but it's a really shit quality one. So I thought I'd get this one when it came up on the Indicator Powerhouse website with the 3 for 20 quid. So I picked up that. Dennis Hopper, off his face, but a good Australian supporting cast in this. Jack Thompson, David Gulpilil, Frank Thring, Michael Pate, an underrated bushranger movie here in Australia. Here's the last of the Indicator ones that I got from Powerhouse. I already had a DVD copy, but it was shit. 1960s Euro Spy. A dandy in aspect with Lawrence Harvey, Tom Courtenay, Mia Farrow, directed by Anthony Mann, who died during production, and Lawrence Harvey took over the direction. Really interesting movie with a great supporting cast. It's got Harry Andrews in it, Lionel Stander, Pierre Oscarson, and Peter Cook, of all people. I'm going to save this for, I'm going to do a little bit of a Euro Spy triple feature, and Dandy and Aspic is going to be one of the ones I do for that. And I've actually got myself a diary so that I can forward plan the videos for the channel in 2024 a lot better than I'm doing at the moment. Didn't have this one. It's the director's cut, directed by Ben Affleck. Yeah, Affleck's been good, Affleck's been bad. He's a very mixed kind of guy. Paid $4 for it. The Town, bit of a crime drama with Rebecca Hall, John Hamm, Jeremy Renner, and Blake Lively. Know nothing about it apart from Pew Pew. Going to check it out and see what I think. This one I've been looking for a while. 1970s drama, directed by Ronald Neame. The Odessa File, based on a Frederick Forsyth novel, with John Voight in it. It says $14.95 in the front, but I paid like $2 for it. I remember enjoying it as a crime kind of spy thriller in the 1970s when I saw it in the cinema, but I haven't seen it since. By the way, that symbol inside the writing is illegal in Australia now. Second last one is an early childhood favourite, and I've checked out one of the episodes and it's fairly good transfer given what it is. I've got 3 episodes of The Cisco Kid in colour with Duncan Ronaldo and Leo Carrillo. Kind of, fun, kiddie 1950s cowboy western action movie or TV series. So it's 3 episodes of the TV series in colour. Picked that up for $3. And for me, having not seen them since the mid-1960s, definitely going to watch that one and give it a go. Well, what's the start of one of the episodes? I didn't watch it all the way through yet. I just wanted to check the quality, and it's watchably good. This one's an imprint one that they didn't send me, so I bought anyway. Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round with James Coburn, Camilla Sparv, who else is in it? Aldo Ray, Nina Wade, Robert Webber, Todd Armstrong, directed by Bernard Girard. This one is the first movie where Harrison Ford gets a speaking role as a bellboy, but it's a nice little crime drama, quite quirky, from the 60s. What year is it? 1966, so you know it's good. But I picked that one up because it's one that I wanted. It's also got a really interesting score. Who did the score? Is it on here? Doesn't tell me, but I remember it having a really groovy score. I'll put up here who did the score for Dead Heat on a Merry-Go-Round, which, by the way, is a good title for a movie. Got that. Last thing I got for you is a big Dead Tree edition. Now, I previously talked about the Overlooked Film Encyclopedia of Science Fiction, which I use as my primary reference book for when I am doing Science Fiction Saturday. I'll dive into it and try to find some obscurities but interesting science fiction movies. And I got a little, like I said, I got Christmas money. So I found a second-hand copy of this and paid a premium for it. But it is the Look in Film Encyclopedia of Horror, which does exactly what the science fiction one does, but for horror movies. And because I do so many horror movies on the channel, I think having this reference book, heavy though it is, it's so heavy it almost bends light around it, but I wanted to get this reference book as a companion piece to the science fiction one I've already got. And I'm quite pleased by it. I've been diving into it, sitting down with it in my lap on the couch and just going through it and seeing that there are some horror movies I wasn't aware of and I may well do for the channel in future. So that's it for this time around. Thanks a lot for watching. Been a rough week, as I said, but if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, get your friends to subscribe, recommend it if you think it's worthwhile. You can also support the channel by donating at patreon.com/cherrytalksmovies. You can become a channel member, or you can donate directly through the YouTube channel. Next up, I've got a horror movie haul from Umbrella, which I had a nice chat on live stream they were doing this week, and they really like what the channel's doing, and they really like the stuff that I've been recommending them for future releases. They may not be able to get them, but they keep a long list, and I've added to their list of things they want to get for release by Umbrella, which I really appreciate. And so I've got 3 horror movies I haven't seen before, and they're sending those to me, and they're classic ones. They're from 10-20 years ago, most of them, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. And there's one new one made here in Australia, which is bug fuck insane. It's a thing called Rib Spreader, which I'm really looking forward to seeing, and the Umbrella guys tell me is a lot of fun. So good stuff coming up. I'm going to be working all the way through. I'm going to be doing a live stream from 11 p.m. New Year's Eve here in Australia all the way through to 1 a.m. in the first hour of 2024, and I'll leave a notification and a highlight on that and tell people when it is in different countries. So I'm going to be doing that at the end of the year as a bit of fun. I did it last year and it was a blast. So until then, watch some good movies, watch some bad movies, watch some movies you pick up for ridiculously small amounts of money and enjoy, and I'll catch you next time.